Okay, so I am doing my classroom management support plan, and I'm going to be doing a second grade class, and the subjects would be writing, reading, vocabulary, and math. So this is the classroom that I designed. Up here is my front door, and as soon as you walk in, you can see over here I have extra materials and folders. This is where the students would turn in their weekly packets with the homework. And this is where the students, if they forgot a pencil, so they need paper or they need anything, this is where the students can access that stuff. Up here on the right, I have rules and procedures. This is where I would have rules that we stand by in the classroom. I would have our weekly goals, weekly learning goals. I would have the jobs for the week or jobs for the month, depending what the job is. Basically, everything that the student needs to know for the day and for the week, that's where I would display it. Down here, I have cubbies with materials. If students need extra manipulatives in order to do an assignment or anything like that, that's where I would have it. Or if I want to use manipulatives for a certain subject, that's where I would have it as well. I have a display board where I display students' work. Down here I have the library, and there's pillows in order for the students to be able to sit, and it kind of is a little bit private, but these cupboards would be very low, so I could still see as well down there. I have 5 tables with 4 students in each table, and they're centered. I think I would be very strategic of where I sit my students. In the middle, I think I would put the students that need a little bit more attention compared to the students in the back, who I know are responsible enough to pay attention on their own. And the students in the front, I think I would put as well ones that need a little bit more attention, but also maybe need to stand closer in order to see the board a little bit more. On the left, I have an extra help personal timetable. This is where if a class is working an assignment, and a student needs help, they would go to that table and sit down there. Or if I'm working with a smaller group on a certain subject, that's where I would have them sitting. Right here, I have the circle and rug, and this is where I would sit. This is the projector, the whiteboard back here. This is my desk, and as you can see, it's placed so I'm basically able to see the whole classroom just from my chair. And I have extra chairs here, and as well as a little fidget basket. So the extra chairs are chairs that can move or anything like that, especially for students with ADHD, and the fidgets as well if they need a manipulative in order for them to concentrate. Behavior management, incentives, and consequences. I think I would want to make sure that I reward the students, not reward, but I would reward students if they do well, like as a class, like give them 5 extra minutes of playtime, or watch a funny 5-minute video, or give them 5 more minutes of reading time if that's what they want. I think as a class, if I see that they're doing well, I would reward them, but I would also recognize students for doing well. Even for the small things, like thank you for raising your hand and because you have a question. I appreciate that you are concerned about your learning and you want to grow. Emails to parents, I think I would send these daily or weekly, telling them that we did great this day, or even tell them, as a class, we think we need to work better. But I would also have send private emails for that and tell your child did this today. Please talk to them about this, and I have examples of emails right there. Private conversations with students. If I ever notice a student being disruptive, I think I would say something at the moment. Say, please, I understand you're having a hard time right now, but can you wait till the end of this so we can talk about what's going on? Just because I want to make sure the student understands that I've noticed their behavior. I'm not going to recognize it at the moment, but I'm going to note I definitely noticed it. Or redirect. Sometimes the student just needs a little bit of redirecting, like, oh, I can see that you are moving around. Maybe wait till this time before you start moving that. Or, hey, the chairs are there available for you if you need that. Or just figure out ways for the student to make the right choice on their own. Classroom routines and procedures. I think I would want to do this the first week of school and together as a class, as in I would talk about the different areas where we need rules, as in how are we going to turn in our homework, how are we going to behave with our partners, how are we going to behave in line and everything, and talk about how we should behave, and is the class come up with certain rules, and I would guide them. Of course, I wouldn't want them to make up their own rules, but definitely direct to where is a safe area for rules. Asking questions, sharing ideas. I think I would have certain hand signals that I would want for the students to do. Raise your hand, do this if you have to use the restroom, anything that as a class we decide. Accessing materials, definitely whenever a student is missing something, they can go to that place where all the materials are at. But if I notice a student is always using a certain time to go, I would definitely at the beginning of the class be like, hey, I noticed you're always forgetting your pencil, or you've been forgetting your pencil. How about you do this before we begin? Finishing work early, I think in my UDLs, I would plan for this and have extra assignments ready, or have the next step ready for the student to go. Work with partners in cooperative group in the beginning of the year, I would come up with these rules. We would come up with these rules as a class to see how we are supposed to work. And I think I would also place students on tables for them to be partners. So I would notice, okay, which students work together best, and those two would be the partners for whatever assignment. Routine signals, I would use a bell. Very easy, it gets everybody's attention, and it's kind of a calming sound, and I would actually have a student doing this. That would be one of my job assignments. Daily and weekly routines. As soon as students arrive, they would look up at the whiteboard. That's how I would want to start, and they would answer the question that's written on their journals, and the question would pertain something about that day's goal, or what we learned during the week, or what we learned the day before. And at dismissal, I would want to regroup as a class and talk about what we learned that day. Tardy and absence, this would be one of the jobs for one of my students, is to collect any work that a student might miss and put it in their assigned folder, and that way they would have it, and write down I would have written down on the board all of our learning goals for the week, and so they can see what we're learning. Again, turning in assignments, that would be in the folder. Every single week, they would have that to be turned in. They would get a packet at the beginning of the week of the homework they need to work on, and then they would turn it in on the certain day that it's assigned. And we would come up with different student responsibilities and job assignments as a class together. I would see where I could benefit of a student helping, or students could benefit and learn responsibility. Again, I would have that board where I would communicate what is needed for the week, what we're going to learn, the weekly learning goals, the papers that we're going to use, the different worksheets that we're going to be using, and yeah. Communicating with parents, definitely use email, meeting, phone calls, letters. Whatever I can in order to communicate with the parents, I think is my responsibility to be able to do so. Here are 2 examples of emails that I would send. I would send letters home with their backpacks. If email's not one of them, I would call them if I had to. Whatever is necessary in order for me to communicate. And this would be the same with school professionals. I think email will be my first way. It's easy, it's quick, and I can be very clear on what I have to say about the student. Meetings, I think constant meetings is another way to do it in order for me to make sure that I'm doing everything I need to in order to accommodate or modify things for the student. And of course, IEP meetings is a way to communicate with professionals, with other teachers, and with the parents. Communication is very key for me to be able to have a good classroom. Communication with the students, with the parents, with the other teachers, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Trial and error, I think I'm going to have to understand that some things may not work. We're going to have to try, see if it does, and if it doesn't, try something else. Again, as a class, we're going to have to do this. It's a safe environment. I want to make sure all of my students feel safe in order to express how they feel, in order to express their ideas, and just make sure that they'll feel safe enough to grow in the classroom.